Boom. Ethereal synchronicity 444. Oh wow. Been one of them kind of days. Man's been grafting. And I'm still at it. So guess what? Happy Aquarius Full Moon. Happy birthday to my Leo people. Yeah? So just to get it straight down, the sun's at 1 degree Leo. The moon's at 1 degree Aquarius. It's not quite exact yet. We're about 20 minutes or so off that. But it is quite close. And at this point in time, I'm feeling it in more way than one. So what I can see for us here is we've got a semi-complex situation. Sun's kind of in the sign of where it loves to be and where it belongs, in its home sign of Leo. Yeah, so the sun has rulership over this sign here, this symbol that you see of Leo, and see 10 and 1 reverses of each other, and basically it's very powerful when it's in Leo. Leo deals with the heart, the spirit, the consciousness, the will of what we want to do, kind of like, you know, what we stand up for and what stands up in our chart, and how we identify, or what identifies within us and our characters of ourselves. In Leo, it definitely speaks to what you're passionate about, what you enjoy, what you love, how you love. Well, maybe not exactly how you love, but I mean the things that you love. Has a relationship with the 5th house in terms of houses, even though it's not an exact correlation. It's definitely some connection. And yeah, children as well. Yeah, things we create, all of this energy comes right from the solar plexus, big light in the sky. So opposite to that, you have the moon, and this deals with all of the unconscious, the subconscious. Well, not necessarily all of it, because you've got it sitting by Pluto. That definitely deals with more subconscious. I feel like the moon's unconscious things that you may not be aware of at all. And what comes first? Well, the point is, it comes to consciousness through the light of the sun. So the lunation, we call it a lunation, of the sun and the moon opposite each other, a full moon, is the situation where the sun is shining light, all of its light, on the full face of the moon, and this shows up as some area in our life where we may become more conscious to what is happening in regards to certain matters. So to make it sound a lot more straightforward, depending on what time you're born and how your birth chart sits, even more over your birth sign, so the sun sign. But if you don't know your houses, we could just use your sun sign as a starting point. Depending where it is in relation to your birthday and your sun, is on how this full moon will affect you. So I'll make it on a basic level. For a Leo, a full moon is showing up in their opposite house of Aquarius, the 7th house would be. Whereas for a Virgo, this full moon in Aquarius will be showing up in their 6th house of work and service. And for a Libra, it will be showing up in their 5th house, and the pattern goes so on and so forth back. And I'm sure you'll want me to say that because people love that on a full moon reading. Alright, let me go with it. So for the Libras then, the full moon in the 5th house is going to show up in the area of fun, entertainment, things that you enjoy, pleasure, and yeah, romance. That could be something going on for Libra with this full moon. Then you have Scorpio, a full moon in Aquarius. It's going to show up in their 4th house, so this could be something to do with home, family, mother, father, roots, heritage, connection for the Scorpio. And then for Sagittarius, Aquarius is their 3rd house. Sagittarius should show up here, and the 3rd house is more like short distance journeys, places you're familiar with even. So it might not be short, but you're really familiar with their brothers, sisters, siblings, communications, Mercurial, Gemini type stuff, where you basically going to be having emails and phone calls. Sagittarius. So yeah, you might want to check your inboxes, mail. I always say that with the 3rd house full moon. 2nd house, Capricorn. So Capricorn follows Sagittarius. It's this sign here on the descendant. So the 2nd sign after it is Aquarius, so it's considered the 2nd house. You're going to be looking at finance, Capricorn, or yeah, look into that area of things that you hold valuable, even self-esteem, self-worth. Second house isn't always about money, but it's kind of what you value. So it has Venetian, Taurian kind of quality there. So after Capricorn, we've got Aquarius themselves. And for you, Aquarius, the full moon is showing up in your first house. If we're looking at it from a solar principle, that kind of speaks to yourself, what you're about, and how you relate to yourself, really, like how you're coming out here. Something's going to be highlighted to you about that. The sun is right opposite you, shining all on you with the moon there. Your unconscious things are being brought to light, Aquarius. Pisces, this is in your 12th house, so the moon is behind where your sun is. Let me follow it on the screen. So this would be Pisces here up in the midheaven, and you can see the moon is behind it now compared to the other sign that's in front of, following the anti-clockwise motion. So for you, Pisces, it may be things that you are less unaware of, things that you haven't realized, haven't looked at, haven't recognized, maybe coming to light for you. Secrets, and even just time and space, maybe to meditate and chill and fall back in that, quiet place, secret place, stealthy place. So for Aries, it's going to be in your 11th house, so it's 2 signs back from you. And this kind of speaks to your connections, your networks, your friends, your higher hopes and ideals. Maybe some light shone there on what it is that you are really trying to reach in this lifetime. So you may want to take a note of what's been on your mind there, Aries. And yeah, I'm sure you'll pursue that with all your might, vigor and gusto. And that's just quite an Aries thing to do. So after... but yeah, you're going to basically, what I'll be thinking about contacting your friends. I take it for granted, but I need to tell you, the people who are not less familiar with it. So friends, higher hopes, ideals, networks of people like you. Yeah, that's what you're talking about there, Aries. Taurus, it's going to be in your 10th house. So it's going to be your public status and reputation. I almost say status because I listen to so many Americans speak. So yeah, your status, your reputation, your public standing, your place in the community, even your career, those things for you, Taurus. And then following Taurus, or even fathers actually, and authority figures. So yeah, you want to look at that. And with this Pluto and with this Saturn nearby, that's definitely going to be a theme. I'm going to go more into this chart, but might as well go through the signs. So I got up to Gemini. A full moon in Aquarius for you guys, Gemini, is going to be like 9th house. So your 9th house speaks to your foreign places, places that are more distant to you. And higher education, higher learning, philosophy. So things that you may believe in or kind of like look into, Gemini. Yeah, that's going to be highlighted for yourself. I actually met a Gemini before. It's quite funny, and we had so many kind of similar thoughts. So yeah, I believe like you'll see this. Ka-ching! You know why, bro. So after Gemini, you got Cancer. A full moon in Aquarius is going to show up in your 8th house, and the 8th house for Cancer is kind of, well, really connected to debts, other people's finances, taxes, all of the light, and yeah. Also crises, things that may show up that are unexpected, especially with the sign of Aquarius, which doubles down on the unexpectedness of the 8th house. So there may be things that you have to kind of deal with, crisis type situations, or they feel like crisis type situations, like life and death changes may have to be made to preserve life, essentially. So Cancer, yeah, like this full moon in Aquarius is no joke for you, but the sun is in your 2nd house, and that kind of is powering up your finance area, just to give you a little, something to perk up. So yeah, it may be a turnaround for you in that regard there. So I mean, if things are going well, you may obviously want to look out on the other side. Things not going so well, you may be able to pick it up, work it out. So Leo, yeah, like I said, we're saying it was your 7th house. Yeah, so gone from the 8th house of Cancer back to the 7th house of Leo. So it's partnerships, relationships, business. Yeah, it's the other half. So it deals with the public forum, like the 10th house, but it's more you in a one-to-one relationship, whereas the 10th house is more the community, and you're standing in your place in it, Leo. So yeah, thought I'd wrap back up at the end where I started at the beginning. So just to like break it down for anybody else who wanted to know a little bit more about this full moon on a general level, because some people actually have astrology interest on a level slightly beyond themselves. What you see in here, why it's special, because every full moon is different. Let me give you a flex, right? I'm gonna go back. Let me take you back. I need to go to days. In fact, it'd be easier to just go weeks. Boom, boom. So 2 weeks ago. Oh, look how that's nice there. So every 2 weeks, give or take, there's a full moon or a new moon. So 2 weeks ago, there was a new moon in Cancer at the 18th degree. Yeah? And this is basically the moon, I should say, what I'm saying, the circle on the screen, has travelled 180 degrees or so around, slightly more than that. It's like 195 really, I guess. Never thought about it in terms of degrees, but I know there's a 15-degree shift for every lunation, which counts to the days in the sun, but I never thought about it in terms of the moon's lunation. Sorry, degree cycle. 195 degrees, I'll bear that in mind. So when the sun basically has travelled another 15 degrees through the sign, give or take, depending. Cancer is actually an extremely long sign. What does that mean? Well, from what I remember, like some signs are slightly more than 30 days, some signs are slightly less, kind of depending on the size of the constellation. So what you'll notice about Cancer is it's one sign that can start on, I mean, even as early as the 20th, but the 21st of July, and it will go all the way through to the 22nd or the 23rd. Sorry, 21st of June, all the way through to the 22nd, 23rd of July. Naughty me, yeah? So I was thinking about basically the days in July, where we are now actually, 24th. So the point with that, right, is it's just gone into Leo, and I think about it, the sun, summer, spends a longer time in the sky than the sun spends in the sky in Capricorn. So due to that, Leo, Cancer, Virgo, like the sun may travel slower through those signs. It's in relationship to the summer and the winter, depending on if you live in the northern hemisphere or the southern hemisphere. Northern hemisphere up here, just in case you guys didn't know. Although if we've got anybody in the southern hemisphere that watches, salute to you, because that is a big shout. Yeah, all of this stuff, right, is what it is. So let me get into it. Sun and moon in Cancer would have spoke to home, family, roots, mothers, all those places. Now it depends where Cancer shows up in your own personal chart, but on a general mundane level, it's like that kind of area where you're looking at. But for the situation to now develop, I'm going to put it into days. What you get through the course of a couple of weeks is the moon. So now it's gone into Leo here, and then a couple of days it will move into Virgo. There you go. So that's 3 days later. So about a day or two later, it will be in about 2 days later Libra. Maybe 2 days after that, Scorpio, and so on and so forth. And what's happening is the moon's now changing its relationship and aspect to the sun. So different things are now being picked up by the moon, kind of in the people's consciousness. And then once the moon reaches the full halfway point again of the sun and the moon, that is where you get a full moon. So let me tap around. And everything that the moon and all the aspects that the moon's been making, so like for that 2 weeks, it's like the big build up. And then when you get opposite, the sun's like has a, so you get the square actually, there's a square. So this is like 1 week between the sun and the moon. This isn't that aspect, it's actually a trine there. I'm just trying to show you these red lines, which represent squares. And then you're going to get to today's situation, where now the sun is opposite to the moon. This is 2 weeks later from when it was in Cancer at 18 degrees with the sun. So now it's at 1 degree Aquarius, and the sun has actually basically travelled 13-14 degrees since then, so 14 days, and it's now at 1 degree with the moon opposite. So it's changed sign. The moon is having a full moon in the opposite sign. The sun's in its home sign, being really powerful. Spends 30 days there or so once every year. So this is the time to live it up and enjoy things and the party time, you would think. But not this year. Since Saturn went into Aquarius late last year, this now will have an effect on all the planets that travel through Leo. So at this point it's the Sun, but previous to that it's been Venus and Mars. Getting my thinking back. So I remember now, before the full moon, just gone about 2 weeks ago. Let's see if I can show you. You had Venus and Mars in Leo together, about to join, but they were making this square, a sharp square, so you can see it's like 15, 17, 14 degrees in Taurus, which is 3 signs after. That's what happens with squares. And then opposite that was Saturn, and that was making a square to this same Uranus in Taurus, and this was causing a lot of friction and tension, a lot of big blow-ups. So what I'm saying that is because normally when the sun's in Leo, barring Saturn not being in Aquarius, or maybe even, I don't know, Scorpio or Taurus and square to it, things are quite, you know, full on, let's enjoy it, let's have a good time. But Saturn is the physical manifestation and the reality of the clipboard, the checkerboard, the boss, like the authorities. So for all the time that the sun was in Cancer and Saturn spent its time alongside Pluto in Capricorn, every time the sun went into Cancer, you were feeling this feeling. Now, because Saturn's moved along and it's going to spend its 2 or so years in Aquarius, every time the sun goes into Leo for the next couple of years, it's going to have to face Saturn. Yeah? So it's not that like you can't party or enjoy it, but it's probably that you're going to have to put a measure or a check on what you're doing and make sure you don't go overboard and overdo it, because you are going to basically be called upon to be accountable. There we go. Getting my words back. It's been a very long day, so I'm going to like kind of like wrap it up now. But the point I was making with this is it's more than just what I said in the beginning, and that there's things that change every full moon and every new moon. So I'll just jump to the next new moon. So yeah, it's going to be in Leo. Let's go. So the new moon in Leo, went too far ahead there, weeks, I need to use days. The new moon in Leo, just to give you a little look, the times ahead, because this is how we do. Yeah, 16 degrees or so, 15 or 16 degrees it will be. So if I change it to hours, you just probably want to see it now because I've got it there and I want to see it. So when they both get to 16 at the same time, there you go, 16 and 16, so it'll be at 16 degrees Leo. Yeah, that is when the next new moon is going to be, and that's going to be on the 8th of August. So when that time comes, I'm going to give you an idea of a bit more about what this means, depending on what is going on and where I'm up to. I may make that in advance actually, but in fact here we go, just to let you know. So when Jupiter was in Pisces before for this full moon, Jupiter is going to have shifted back into Aquarius, and this is where they're saying things are going to, well I say they're saying, us astrologers have been talking about how Jupiter in Pisces has kind of been like the freedom, and Jupiter going back into Aquarius is kind of like a lack of liberation to the freedom. Now it doesn't speak to what Jupiter in Aquarius means, it's just something that we noticed when Jupiter left Aquarius, that things seem to lighten up, because Jupiter's home sign is Pisces as well as Sagittarius. So don't take it as a Jupiter in Aquarius situation. We think it's more in relation to the fact that Saturn, which spends 2 and 3 years in each sign, is home for the first time in 30 years, or its second home of Aquarius. And when Jupiter's there, the party king, alongside kind of the party pooper, Saturn is kind of like, you know, putting a little bit of a squeeze on the juice. So that's kind of like why we're thinking when this retrograde happens, it's not as light-hearted as, you know, it should be in normal times. But I'll tell you more about this full moon when the time comes. If you want to know more about your astrology, and anything to do with you or relationships or important things, jobs, career, that kind of thing, get at me. But I'm going to say like, share, subscribe, tell a friend, tell a friend, tell a friend, all that kind of stuff. And I'll be back with you with something else maybe before this or not. Until then, love.